Hi, friends. This is Jim Mathis, the Reinvention Pro from sunny Orlando, Florida. Today we are faced with an unusual crisis in business and our personal health and lives. The coronavirus, or COVID-19, is rampaging across our community, our state, our nation, and our world. The economies of every country are being disrupted and damaged as business has ground almost to a full stop in places. People are panicking and filled with fear. Many are looking for answers as to how we got here and where we are going. Everyone is looking for leadership. You know, Jim Webb said, "I learned a long time ago on the battlefields of Vietnam that in a crisis, there's no substitute for clear-eyed leadership." Make no mistake, we are in a battle now, both personal and corporate in our communities. We must win or else give in to fear and disease. And that's not what we want, though. I believe we find ourselves at a turning point in history. In fact, the word crisis comes from the Greek, and it actually means a turning point in a disease. The patient can get better or get worse. It is the point where the direction is determined about the patient's future. I want to discuss this situation with you with positive advice and counsel to help you lead in a time of personal, national, and global crisis. The word discussion, actually from the root word, again the Greek, means to break apart. Dis means to tear apart or leave or go away. It also means to examine, investigate the pieces, as an investigator would examine a murder scene. Let's examine, investigate, and discuss where we find ourselves today. I read last evening while I was mapping out this message, smart is when you believe half of what you hear. Brilliant is when you know which half to believe. What are you hearing now as you listen to what other people in the media think during this pandemic? I tell people I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm a professional observer who listens to other people think, and that's what I want you to do too. I believe the COVID-19 virus can be lethal if it is not restrained, and I take it very seriously. That's why we are quarantined, our house is, and we've kept distance and we're practicing social distancing, as many of you are hearing this in your homes probably right now and not at your offices. But I also believe that leadership, when restrained, may become more lethal in the long run. You know, the state motto of South Carolina, where I went to college, is Dum Spiro Spero. That's Latin from while I breathe, I hope. There is hope in the predicament and crisis we're going through today. You should remember that as long as you have breath in you, you can have hope. Remember, this isn't the first crisis most of us have faced that promised to end the world. Remember Y2K? Remember 9/11? Remember the stock market crashes of 2001, the dot-com crash in 2007, the Great Recession? We've been in crises before, and we will be again. This ain't my first rodeo, folks, and it probably isn't yours either. So, knowing that, how can you help others by your leadership and encouragement? What experiences have forged you that you can draw from to help others today? Dr. John Maxwell, who I'm a big fan of, says that leadership is never more necessary than in a crisis, and I firmly believe that. In fact, a crisis brings out leadership like no other event in life. It is an essential service to get us through these dark days. Many state governors have shut down businesses and services they have deemed non-essential for our protection. Friends, first, don't let a government bureaucrat convince you that your service as a leader isn't essential to others' lives. That's why I'm here today, to help you find your traction and guide everyone safely on this journey we're all in. So let's get started. I write, speak, and specialize on reinvention, and I truly believe I was born for this moment in history. And more importantly, so were you. So we're dealing with 4 Ds right now. The first one is disease. Remember what I said about the word dis? It means no or away or lack. Disease means no ease. That's just the way you break the word down, dis-ease. It's in times of crises that people see who they really are. Who you are is determined by the choices you make. You have the opportunity to make a choice that this will either be your greatest tragedy or it will be your finest hour. John Maxwell also says, choices make us, crises reveal us. People are fragile. They're very fragile, and we know that just as we deal with people and we find people panicking everywhere, looking for toilet paper and other goods they deem essential. Fear spreads faster than any virus does. Fragile people need leadership now more than ever. It is easy to feel good, but the moment we face a crisis, we start thinking negatively. I want you to rid yourself of every negative thought and fear that you have right now. Don't allow fear to run your life. Perspective is everything, and the way you perceive what's going on right now will influence your life and the lives of those around you. Quit worrying about 2 to 3 months from now. What you fear will still be there whether you worry about it or not. You know, King Solomon was one of the wisest people ever lived, said 4 simple, amazing words: "This too shall pass." Nothing will cause you more frustration than trying to control things that you can't control. I want you to make a list of what is in your control, what you can control. Next, I want you to make a list of the things going on that you cannot control, no matter what you do. You can't control the overall economy. You can't control the disease spreading around the world, but only in your sector. Then what I want you to do is I want you to throw the second list away, the things you can't control. Or better yet, here's an idea. Why don't you store it away somewhere and take it out in another 6 months? What happened to those items? You'll see that many passed. This too shall pass. And they didn't require you to do anything to speed them along, because you can't influence them, you can't control them. Remember that people are always watching you. It could be a coworker, it could be a child, a student, a young employee wanting to move up the ladder, a competitor. Author Mary Kennedy, she's a mystery author, said, "Never let them see you sweat. Never take no from someone who isn't qualified to tell you yes. And never let the naysayers get you down. Put people at ease. Take away the dis-ease and bring people ease. They are dealing with enough on their own, and they will follow a leader who eases their pain." The second step, the second D we deal with, is distraction. And don't worry, I don't have the disease, I just have seasonal allergies, and it hasn't rained here in Orlando measurably for the last 2 months. Distraction. Remember, no or lack? Distraction, and I got this from John Maxwell, means no traction. No firm ground to gain momentum. You have a lack of traction. You can't be brave if you've only had wonderful things happening, said Mary Tyler Moore. What is your focus right now? Is it on learning from this experience or on your immediate problems? C.S. Lewis said, "They may break our bodies, but they need not dominate our minds." Your mind is a wonderful organ. It controls your actions, and those are usually controlled by the thoughts you harbor in your mind. What are your dominating thoughts right now? What have you been thinking about all day before you heard this? Have you been thinking about the negatives or the positives? Have you lost traction this past month? I know I have. My business fell drastically when the virus caused the economy to shut down, and every speaking date was postponed until later. My oldest son, Chris, shoots videos for conventions here in Orlando and in Atlanta, 2 of the hottest places for conventions outside of Las Vegas. All of his business through next month was canceled due to the pandemic. Many of you are watching this at home for the same reason. Your work is shut down, or your business is closed to keep people from congregating in large numbers. There's a very popular Mexican restaurant just about a mile from our house right now, right over that way, that shut its doors permanently yesterday, that will no longer be in business because they were floundering a little bit. It was popular with certain people, and me too. But they shut down permanently because they can't survive the pandemic. But that doesn't mean we can't make positive decisions and choices and reinvent our thinking to change our results for the better. And I believe we can. I believe this too shall pass. But it may be for a longer time than we are comfortable with, and things won't be the old normal when we return to work. In fact, I'm convinced that this event will change our lives in various ways going forward. My newsletter coming out next week, the very beginning of April, end of March, will explore some of these changes in more depth. For one thing, hundreds of thousands of students are studying online for schools and universities. They've been doing that for over 12 years, but this may change that to a more frequent practice as we adjust to a new world of training, just like this webinar is doing right now. By the way, did you know that this is the only time an epidemic has closed down universities? I'm a big history buff, and if you know me, I'm always drawing from historical precedents. In 1665, the bubonic plague was ravaging Europe. Sir Isaac Newton was restricted to his home when Cambridge University temporarily closed due to the plague. It became the most productive time of his life. He used it to develop the theories of gravity, calculus, and optics. Remember, crisis, the word crisis, means a turning point in a disease. A crisis will either make you or it will break you and your organization. It is the choices that you make next that will determine your actions and your outcomes, as well as the way you influence the people who look to you for traction and guidance. I heard a saying earlier today that motion follows emotion. The emotions you have will determine the motions you make. What choices you will make as you spend time regrouping and evaluating yours and others' futures. Choose wisely. People are watching. Be honest and give people traction. The next D that we face, the third one, is disasters. Now, I looked up the root of this the other night and it kind of stunned me. It actually means no stars, disasters. It's another word we get from the Greek. Or a lack of guidance. For hundreds of years, sailors used the stars, and particularly the North Star, to guide their ships at sea. Centuries before compasses or the sextant were invented, this was the only way they could navigate the oceans, and also if you were crossing a desert and you had a starry night. They made maps and charts to show others the way to journey safely and use the stars to get their bearings to make those maps. If there was a cloudy evening, they had a disaster, no stars. Have you seen the movie Apollo 13? It's one of my favorites. The astronauts used the Earth as a fixed point in space because the debris field following the wounded spacecraft was following them everywhere they went. It was moving at the same speed they were in space, and they couldn't tell the debris shining against the sun's light from the stars. But Jim Lovell was able to use the Earth as a fixed point in space. It was their home, where they were headed back to, and he used it to navigate them back because they couldn't see Antares. Believe it or not, one of the spacecrafts was called Antares on a later mission because that was the star they used to guide themselves to the moon and guide themselves home. The astronauts used the stars, and when they couldn't, Jim Lovell used the Earth to navigate his way back home again. They had to rely on a fixed point that didn't move to get home. What is your guiding North Star? What is your fixed point? I believe that we can all be the guiding stars for others on this critical journey. It is our job to navigate and get the bearings for others who will follow us as immovable fixed points and guides in their lives. You need to depict yourself and paint yourself as the movable object to those around you, to your families, to your friends, to your associates, to the people that you lead at business, to your customers. Are you out front guiding others, or are you huddling in a corner? Remember, great leaders are out front when everyone else is huddling in a corner in fear. Israeli officers, I don't know if you know this or not, but they die more often than proportionately to any other country's generals because they're always out in front of their soldiers. The saying is among the soldiers, always let us see our officers' backs. To the officers, they say, always let the soldiers see your back. Why? Because the officers are out front. By the way, Israel is always in a crisis, but they've never lost a war. You know how I know that? Because if they'd lost a war, they're surrounded by their enemies and they would not still be in existence. Be out front when others are afraid to lead and others are living in fear. Give them traction and be the guiding North Star for them. And the final D that we're going to deal with, I'll be glad when we get rain and we can wash all the pollen out of the air. The final D is despair. That means without hope. Again, despair, without hope. Remember that I said that the motto of South Carolina is Dum Spiro Spero? Spero is the word hope. Cast hope when others are in fear. I'm going to spend more time on this than all the other D's, and this is good. And I don't mean to be casually giving encouragement to just prop people up, oh, have hope, oh, feel good. I don't mean that. In fact, I bristle when people call me a motivational speaker. I've never felt like my job was to motivate, but to provoke people to think deeper. But I don't mind motivating you right now. In fact, we're posting this video for free online because I believe in giving back and I want people to have hope because I want this to end and I want us to do it all together. What I want you to do is I want you to inject positive value and hope into others' lives. You know, personally, I've often lost my optimism, but I've never lost hope. My best friend, who has helped edit my best-selling book, was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago. Each time he thinks he has it removed and he's in good health, it returns. Last Friday, this past Friday, I texted him about what all was going on in business because Mike and I talk about business a lot, and I hadn't communicated with him in a couple of weeks. I told him what things were going on in my business and asked what his opinion was and his advice. That same day, he had been to the doctor to hear about his process, where he anticipated a good report. Moments later, I got a text from him saying, "I've just left the doctor and I'm speechless." I thought the cancer was gone, but the cancerous tumors have returned. With all I'm going through, as a husband, father, speaker, and friend to others, I began messaging Mike to offer encouragement to him. I want you to know that no matter how bad your day is, someone somewhere would give anything to be you for just one day. If you're hearing me right now, there are people in the world that would give anything they've got just to be you for one day. They would gladly swap their problems for yours. Remember, though, that every rainbow requires a storm for it to make an appearance. Without rain, there's no rainbow. Every miracle in the Bible, and many of you know that I'm a retired Baptist minister, every miracle in the Bible started with a problem. There's no such thing as a miracle that did not happen without a problem starting first. If you have a problem, you're a candidate for a miracle. And here's some other news. If you don't have any problems, you're not going to get any miracles. It requires a problem to experience a miracle. What positive changes or course corrections can you make during this time? Leaders are at their best, remember, when everyone is huddling in a corner. And I want you to be your best for everyone around you because they are looking to you for support, for guidance, and for encouragement and for hope. Give people hope. Encourage them to increase their value. We may be isolated at home, but we're not alone. The first thing most people think in a crisis is that they are all alone. Years ago, I should do a change exercise. In fact, I did it about a year ago for a group in Kansas I was working with. Had everybody stand back to back, and I had them change in pairs. I had them change 5 things about their appearance. This is pretty easy, and it's kind of funny. You hear people laughing about things. You can hear belt snapping as guys take their belts off. You can hear ladies dropping their purses. You can hear people just kind of laughing about what they're doing. Then they face each other and name the 5 things the other person has changed. Then I asked them not to sit down, but to stand back to back again. Now change 5 different things. Ooh, you ought to hear them when they do this. Suddenly, the first thing everybody does is they look up, then they look down. Now, I'll get to that in a moment. The other thing you hear is people saying, and particularly ladies say, "I can't take anything else off," and they'll laugh. I remember when they said that too. Kind of a little funny note here. My wife mentioned this to me. She posted a thing on Facebook this morning about how during the crisis where everybody's staying at home, she doesn't have to wear a bra anymore. I told her, I don't know if I can bring that up in a presentation, but I'm going to. She has so many likes. She has over 20 likes within an hour from other women that are agreeing. And if you're a lady listening to this right now, you're kind of sitting there nodding, yep, I can kind of hang around the house like I want to right now. Whenever change comes, we think of what we will lose rather than what we still have or can add to our lives. In fact, I point out to people after they do the second 5 changes, look at all the things you could have added. On your table, there's probably, look here, if I wanted to change things, I could pick up the water bottle, I could pick up the cap, I have my phone here. I could pick up the laptop and hold it. I could pick up one of the books. I could turn the book upside down. There's all kinds of things I could do. But when change comes, we think about what we're going to lose first, not what we're going to gain or what we could add. I think many people will discover hobbies, ideas, opportunities, and people they can add to their lives that will make a difference in the world while we're sequestered and while we're isolated. I came up with this presentation actually 2 days ago while we were sitting at home alone with extra time on my hands. And I'm thankful for it, very much so. I'm thankful that I came upon these stories and people and interviews and articles that I've read about other people and what they're doing during this time, and drew on my own experiences, my own failures, and my own struggles about other crises I faced. And you know you can do that too. I believe it's benefiting people all over the world at this moment, and I'm praying that it does. You know, comedian Brian Regan says, it's funny how a child is proud that they can do something all by themselves. Look, Daddy, I drew this all by myself. But when we feel discouraged when we're single adults because we start singing all by myself, and he cries as he says it. I want you to instill courage in others. Remember, the opposite of encourage is discourage. There's dis again. That is to remove courage. Your job is to add value to lives and show people what they have at their very own fingertips that they can draw from. Our neighborhood had a challenge last weekend when we were all quarantined at home. They got on Facebook and they asked people to do sidewalk chalk art so individuals and children walking by in the cool of the evening or people driving through could see the pictures and cheer them up. Our neighbors across the street spelled out a decorative sentence to encourage everyone who drove or walked past on their driveway. It simply said, "We are all in this together." We were all at home and felt alone, but they reminded us that we were not alone at all. Everyone was going through the same experiences in isolation at home, but we were together. Another example I learned in the change exercise, remember I said I was going to bring this up later, as I mentioned earlier, we all think we're going through this alone. It's amazing in a room full of people that nobody thinks of looking around when I say change 5 other things. They all look up at the ceiling to think, they all look at the floor to think, oh my gosh, I can't. The one place they don't look is around to see what everyone else is changing, what they're doing. What ideas can I get from this person? What ideas can I steal from that person? What can I do that that person's doing? Because we think it's only happening to us. And our case is the worst case scenario of anyone going through this. It's not. As I talked about Mike a while ago, as I've talked to other people going through tragedies, people who had weddings canceled, people who have passed away recently and the family can't get together for a burial service, people who are losing everything right now. There are people going through worse situations probably than you are, and you're not alone in the crisis now. My friend Don Lloyd posted this quote attributed to Regina Malaba, I hope I can pronounce this right, Malalbago yesterday on Facebook. Your greatest test is when you are able to bless someone else while you're going through your own storm. You can encourage, and that is give courage to your team, your followers, your family, those without hope that are not alone. I'm in this with you. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But I saw a grumpy cat. You remember Grumpy Cat years ago? I saw a Grumpy Cat meme that said, if life doesn't give you water and sugar, your lemonade will suck. I want to add value to your lemonade today. We're all in this together, and so is everyone in every home, every business, every state, and now every country in the world. In many ways, this experience will bring us all together globally as humanity struggles with the same challenges. We can all gain from this isolated time, one way or another, and come out on the other side better for the experience. Remember, this crisis will not be permanent. This too shall pass. I hope you have gained some perspective that the media, oh gosh, the media can depress us so much. Corporations, the daily emails I get from different corporations, what they are doing to fight the virus within themselves, and what they are doing for you, what they are doing for you, and it winds up what they're doing for themselves. Governmental leaders who are constantly giving updates. We get updates many times in Florida right now from local officials, the state officials, from the president, the White House, from the opposing party, from everybody. I've gotten where I turn most of them off because I'm doing a fast from that right now. These are perspectives that aren't going to help you right now. The perspective you get is going to have to come from within and come from how you lead others. Give people ease. Give them guidance. Give them traction. And most of all, give them hope. And as usual, add value to people where they are. Make their lemonade better. Now, on a personal note, I promise to be here for you and offer value assistance as we see this through together. This may not be the last webinar like this we do. I have other ideas. As I said, there's a newsletter coming out and you can subscribe to it. One way to subscribe is look at the bottom of this sheet right here. If you will just text the word newsletter to 21777, you can subscribe the newsletter. You'll get this month's issue and you'll get the next one that comes out in another week about dealing with crisis. So you say, Jim, what can I do following this time together that we've had today to know more? Well, first, subscribe to the newsletter, or you can send an email to info@jimmathis.com, and we'll make sure that you get the newsletter. Next, suddenly everyone in sales, I realized this morning, everyone in sales, if you were doing outside sales, you're not anymore. You're doing inside sales now. Everyone has become an inside salesperson. And that's what I train for in many organizations. I've already been contacted by 2 organizations just this morning who asked me to come and do sales programs for them, some through webinar and some in person, in several months when this crisis is past. Remember, this too shall pass. And the advantage is you can learn to reinvent your sales either in a webinar, just like today, or in person down the line. All you have to do is contact me at info@jimmathis.com if you heard this and found value in it, and I'll be glad to get back in touch with you. I can lead customized webinars like this on reinventing leadership in crisis, or one of my other topics on customer service, marketing, branding, generational issues. And I've also had someone contact me within the last hour about doing a generational program for them. And when they heard about this program, they want me to do this one too. And also a general one on reinventing your business or your governmental organization. We're going to have to go through a lot of reinventing in the next few months and maybe few years. And that is what I was born to do and what you were born to work with too. Maybe you had planned a convention or a conference and now it's been canceled due to the circumstances right now. Contact me at info@jimmathis.com and we'll work out a customized webinar for your team so your folks can still get value during this time without having to come to a convention. And maybe your organization or your members could benefit from this. I want to help you be better, and I will customize this program for you. Apart from the free one we're doing, I'll customize one for you and make it a fair price for us to work together. Even in crisis mode, I want you to be better. Also, if you go to my website, jimmathis.com, www, you can see over here, jimmathis.com, you can also purchase my best-selling book, Reinvention Made Easy, which was written for such a time as this during economic upheaval and how to react positively and reinvent yourself. Or any of the other books or CDs that I've got, just click on the store button at the top of the home page and we'll be glad to, you can purchase it online without having to encounter any person, any individual, and have to come in within 6 feet of them. By the way, as I said earlier, this webinar is going to be posted to my website and on social media later this week for you to use as my gift to you. Take that gift, and I hope it helps you help others and lead them to a victory in this crisis. Thank you. I'm here for you. Be safe out there.